Welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Bindi. I'm Barjo's understudy. I'm here keeping the seat warm while he's off gallivanting around sunny Los Angeles on the taxpayer's dollar.
We're so grateful to have you back, Bindi, and I can assure you that Barjo is hard at work at this year's Electronic Entertainment Expo, playing all of the games and interviewing all the developers.
Yeah, right, sitting by the pool, interviewing all of the Venice Beach chicks, I reckon.
I don't think Barjo will be by the pool. He doesn't go outside.
Oh, you know, fair enough, fair enough. I mean, and meanwhile, poor us, we've been crawling through the mud and dodging gunfire with Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier.
Plus, we'll take a look at a new horror mod that gives Half-Life a fresh coat of blood, Cry of Fear.
And I'll be taking a look back at the history of French games developer Ubisoft, makers of the excellent We Dare, which I had so much fun playing this time last year. Yes! Barjo? Barjo?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm glad I wasn't there for that review.
There was a bonding experience though, Hex. It was lovely.
Okay, well, we should get on with the show, but first, can you guess the game for this week? Okay, Bindi, I'm off to read the news. Are you going to be okay here by yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, fine.
Okay.
Just while away the time.
The annual Electronic Entertainment Expo has once again delivered an insight into the year ahead for gamers. Along with the expected sequels, multiple screen experiences were a big focus this year. Nintendo acknowledged the issue of being alone together, where family attention is fractured across multiple devices in one room. It hopes to use its upcoming touchscreen controller and TV combo to bring families back together. To this end, the gamepad screen showed players using it to sing towards their friends instead of the TV. However, an absence of any of Nintendo's big licenses provoked some industry skepticism. SmartGlass was Microsoft's multiple screen strategy, offering access to Xbox entertainment and gaming info on tablets and mobiles. Meanwhile, Sony discussed bringing its games to additional mobile phones and extending the interconnectivity between Vita and PS3. But as always, it was the surprise games that stirred the E3 crowds the most.
Is that a scar? Is that recent?
Glorious, happy and glorious, long to reign.
Good game.
Okay, Bindi, ready for our first review?
Yes, and I love cute little colourful games, Hex.
Oh, good, because it's time to check out the disturbing psychological horror that is Cry of Fear.
Cry of Fear is a total conversion mod of Half-Life. That's right, the original Half-Life from 1998. So all the content in this game has been entirely crafted again from scratch by the developers. All new character models, textures, a fully fledged campaign and a follow-on co-op campaign.
The story here is very twisted, but it also has this beautiful slow-paced intro that really sets the mood.
Haunting music introduces us to the game's gloomy location and to the hoodie-wearing protagonist Simon, along with some gorgeous virtual cinematography.
It's amazing what people can achieve with engines as old as this. A film grain filter not only serves as a metaphor for our lead character's frail frame of mind,
How did I get here?
but it's also a nifty way to detract from the fact that these textures and models really belong in the 90s.
Yeah, well they do, don't they? Although I must say I never found myself pulled out of the atmosphere by any technical shortcomings. Even down to the first-person animations, this game does not feel as dated as you'd expect on a 14-year-old engine.
Now, we have to mention early on that there are some pretty heavy themes in this game. Suicide, child murder, make for some pretty dark and gruesome storytelling. It's confronting, but I don't think it ever feels sensationalist. The more you uncover about this strange world you're in, you're given enough context to see that these themes do have their place.
Well, I don't know, Hex. I mean, I found the story a bit ropey, actually. I thought sometimes it was dark just for the sake of being dark, and some of the writing isn't quite up to the mark.
Why are you wearing a gas mask?
It feels like a script from a lame old horror movie that you'd find, you know, in the discount bin or on VHS or something. But that said, there are some really great scares in this game that will have you on the edge of your seat. Or in Goose's case, flying out of it.
In Goose's defense, the atmosphere in this game is relentlessly dark. You'll be flicking your cursor around, trying to get a fix in the origin of every little creak and groan.
There are some pretty rubbish moments too, though, including like a crucial part of any survival horror game, which is your first encounter with the enemy.
Oh, I know, and there's such a brilliant build-up to it. As you warily make your way around the narrow streets of this seemingly deserted city, shadows flash across walls, an ungodly creature materializes, then dissipates in an instant right before your eyes.
Yes, I mean, I was terrified. I was literally donning a fresh pair of underwear when all of a sudden you get this. I mean, it's a bit deflating after building up all of that tension. I mean, why would you take control away from me? Why? Why?
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing, and from here on in it's a pretty mixed bag when it comes to enemy encounters. Due to the extremely linear nature of the level design, fights generally take place in hallways or small rooms, and the placement of enemies start to become just a bit too obvious.
But there'll still be the odd, disgruntled housewife zombie with blades for limbs who'll catch you off guard. A lovely welcome home after a hard day's work.
You'll spend a lot of time relying on that trusty knife of yours early on, and it's not long before you have that run, stab, retreat dance down pat.
Elegant as always, Hex. Yes, look, I didn't like the melee combat very much, I must say. You know, I couldn't help most of the time just going hit for hit with the enemy, which could easily have been fixed with an option to block attacks. Just felt a little bit cheap, I thought. But it did make the moment when you get your first gun that much sweeter. Tasty pistol.
Equipping weapons and items sees you clicking your way through an old school inventory that kept reminding me of some of those classic adventure games like The Secret of Monkey Island.
Well, this inventory system complements the puzzle design, which instantly teleports you back to that 90s gaming headspace. There are keys to collect, clues to find, codes to crack. Every important piece of information is listed in your notes so that you can refer back to it. I loved this.
Oh, me too. I particularly like that some of those puzzles are dynamic, and this stops you from unlocking doors or skipping ahead on your second playthrough or by using online guides. You have to dig up those clues yourself if you want to progress. When you advance through the levels, you'll start to find some heavier weaponry to help you take down the plethora of enemies the game has to throw at you.
I was pleased by how many kinds of enemy there were. It seemed like round every corner I was faced with some weird new monster. It was like a trip to Fitzroy in Melbourne. There's a nice mix of bashers, crawlers, and ranged enemies to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, don't forget those ones that look like that girl from The Ring.
What, Naomi Watts?
Oh. These creepy looking ladies fight for control of your mind, encouraging you to commit suicide. By repeatedly clicking, you can escape her grasp and quickly take her down, but this is a survival horror game, so use those bullets sparingly. It's so easy to lose a few too many rounds in this game when fear takes hold.
No, and if you're dumb enough to reload before your clip's empty, you'll lose the rounds you didn't fire, so you've got to be very smart about conserving your ammo.
Needless to say, find where your save points are in this game and save frequently.
I mean, I must admit, I did die occasionally in this game.
So did I, Bindi. So did I.
Aside from those frustrating deaths, Cry of Fear did give us a pretty good scare from time to time. There are some solid ideas in here, so I'm giving it 6.5 rubber chickens out of 10.
Yeah, it definitely needs some work, and the developers know this too because they're apparently working on a stack of patches for it, so it's 7 out of 10 from me. All right, Bindi, time for another episode of Tiny Power. Wonder what those cheeky devs are up to this week.
I'm going to make a game that will change the world. Okay, give me the jump from Mario, the power-ups from Mega Man, the narration from Bastion, the helmet from Halo. Go!
Okay, beta released.
Wow, I think I actually care about this.
No matter what happens, Troy, this has been the most creatively fulfilling thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys did it. I was helmed it.
Holy shit, this game is unreal. Man, this is too good.
Dude, this game is out of control.
Guys, I just heard from the States we're closing down.
This game rules. So tell me, Troy, how did you come up with the idea for this game? Well, Bargo, inspiration is a funny thing. One could say
An imaginary green dwarf from a 90s Mega Drive game speaks to him in his head.
I was originally arcade.
Can you get me X's number?
The game that I love the most is XCOM. I just think it's one of the greatest games ever made. I love turn-based strategy, and having a game of that kind of epic scope, you know, where you start with the world. Place your base, here's the whole world. And, you know, you place your base and you hunt down UFOs and, you know, they're terrifying and your guys just get eviscerated like crazy. And, you know, it was such a great game. Your base gets invaded and it's such a surprise. Like, I didn't know that could happen. It shocked me that nobody had remade it before now. And so someone finally is, and so I'm so happy.
Good game.
Over the last 2 decades, Ubisoft has blossomed from a boutique French family business to one of the world's best-known games publishers, and today they have the market cornered when it comes to stealthy sneakery. Their first hit was a world away from this, though. It was the mid-90s and the rest of the industry was rushing to make 3D games for the new consoles. Ubisoft went in the opposite direction and placed a big bet on the young designer Michel Ancel and his 2D platformer, Rayman. This lovable, limbless larrikin with his helicopter hairdo charmed gamers. Rayman was a hit, but how do you top a man with flying hair and no knees? Well, it's easy when your wallet's bulging with Rayman cash. Ubisoft went on a spending spree.
Charlie, go.
Buying up Red Storm, makers of the Rainbow Six games. Importantly, this gave them access to the big-name Tom Clancy license.
Tango down.
Getting in early had worked with Rayman, so they got in early. The first shot from Tom Clancy's pistol was Ghost Recon, released as a launch title for the Xbox. It was a slower-paced, strategic shooter. It was also one of the first games to feature online co-op play with your friends. Oh, I have fond memories of donning that call centre-looking headgear as I set forth to make new friends with like-minded gamers. Hi, my name's Andrew. It's really nice to meet you.
Shut up, you f***ing dickhead. I'm gonna shoot your f***ing balls off and f***ing teabag you with them.
I just play on my own. The next Tom Clancy bullet from the Ubisoft barrel was Splinter Cell. It cast players as the sneaky super spy Sam Fisher. This guy had enough high-tech gadgets to make James Bond look like he didn't have many high-tech gadgets. Microsoft hoped Sam Fisher could turn the lights out on PlayStation's popular Metal Gear stealth franchise, so they gave Ubisoft extra tech support, maximising the power of the new Xbox to leverage those now famous effects. Sammy stalked his way through a handful of top-notch sequels, and as he got older, he swapped his glowing Raver headgear for a sexy, angry beard.
Who killed my daughter?
After those Tom Clancy hits, Ubisoft went shopping again, this time buying up the ailing Prince of Persia franchise that had been all but buried by the abysmal Prince of Persia 3D. Ubisoft was determined to bring the prince back from the dead, and they enlisted the original creator Jordan Mechner to help reboot it. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time was a triumph of design. It was the first game to deliver a level of style and choreography we'd previously only enjoyed in films. And there was that magical time-travelling dagger you could use to rewind your mistakes. If only Julia Gillard had one of those. Some gamers initially condemned this rewind feature. The challenge will be ruined, they declared, but critics and gamers embraced the Fresh Prince and his rewind skills, and now loads of games use rewind features. Lazy copycats. Next, Ubisoft dreamt up a winning formula. Prince of Persia's climbing and combat, plus Splinter Cell's sneaking, plus one hoodie equals a gaming sensation. Assassin's Creed. It had you playing the brooding Altair on a mission to regain his honor, solve the mystery of the Templars, and stab a lot of people in the neck. The game introduced some clever counterattacks too, but the real star was its parkour running. The game's Achilles heel, though, was those repetitive investigations.
Why would he do that?
The formula got fleshed out with Assassin's Creed 2 set in Renaissance Italy. It ditched the repetition and gave us far more varied gameplay. Plus, bonus points for any game that features Leonardo da Vinci as your handy scientific sidekick with a silly accent.
Now, how can I be of service?
Sadly, Ubisoft then pinched a tactic from Activision's Sequel Factory manual and pulled a reserve team of programmers off the bench to pump out Assassin's Creed 2.5 and 2 3/4, or Brotherhood and Revelations as Ubisoft called them.
Could it be that you are every bit as deadly as the legends say? Or am I in charge of an army of drunks swinging sticks?
I mean, they weren't bad games, but they were clearly fillers designed to milk Ezio's nipples for more cash. Now, Ubisoft had tackled some violent themes before, but we were all shocked by their next offering, starring these bloodthirsty psychos. Rayman Raving Rabbids. For the new Wii console, Ubisoft again tapped the brain of Rayman creator Michel Ancel to devise this cute and cuddly, highly entertaining party game. Ubi also used the new Wii motion control to kickstart another franchise with its stabby-shooty Red Steel. Hardcore gamers had been itching to use their trigger fingers on Nintendo's new console. Red Steel looked better than any other Wii game yet. Swords and guns, what could go wrong? Alas, Ubisoft did forget one tiny detail: gameplay. God, this is awful. Oh. Now, clearly some of the blame for these terrible controls lay with the Wii technology. Oi! Look down, dick! Nintendo later upgraded the controller with a Motion Plus dongle thingo you had to buy just to get the features it should have had originally. It's rubbish. Now, a couple of Ubisoft games have sharply divided audiences. Michel Ancel's Beyond Good and Evil did exactly that. Critics praised the rich world, the memorable characters, and slick combat Ancel had built. But consumers largely ignored it, making it the publisher's largest commercial failure to date.
Keep doing nothing, and next time there'll be nothing left here to save.
Cut! However, one person who did like it was bushy-faced director Peter Jackson, who approached Ancel to collaborate with him on a game based on Jackson's King Kong movie. And this game balanced desperate first-person sequences where you struggled to survive against Kong's near-limitless power as you used him to wrestle T-Rexes. They made a game that was an exception to the norm of abysmal games based on films. Unfortunately, not all Ubisoft's film adaptations were exceptions.
Good morning, angels. Good morning, sorry.
In particular, there was nothing angelic about this crap. Later, the Just Dance games turned out to be the exact opposite of Beyond Good and Evil. These boogie sims were scoffed at by critics, but became a massive hit with the public, selling more than 25 million copies worldwide. How immensely depressing. But Ubisoft had caught a whiff, and it wasn't just the butt sweat of dancing gamers. The revenue potential of motion games had led them to unleash the Your Shape fitness game. And after twisting us into all sorts of undignified positions in the name of health, who knows where they'll take us next.
Good game.
Thanks to myself for that insightful historical piece, which segues us nicely into the latest squad shooter from Ubisoft. It's Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Now, the first thing you'll notice about Future Soldier is that if you're low enough to buy it second-hand or rent it, then you will be punished by being forced to pay separately for one of these new online passes in order to access multiplayer, even though the original owner isn't using the game anymore. Now, these things were invented quite recently by EA, presumably when they got Dr. Evil in as a consultant one week, and they're very quickly becoming the door bitch of the gaming world. Like,
oh no, you can't come in here unless you pay.
Well, you're a little bit behind the times there, because these online passes have been around for a while, and a lot of games use them. They're just another form of DRM, and some say that online passes would even fund a better online experience.
You're being all ABC and balanced, Hex, I reckon. I mean, these things, they're like sneaky bank fees. When I see one, I feel exploited, I feel ripped off, I feel cheated.
Bindi, you're not on Oprah, plus it's not like you had to buy one anyway.
Oh, don't tell me you couldn't pass for Oprah, Hex. You look very similar to her.
Well, I would agree that I don't like the hassle that they create.
It's almost as if these don't fund a better online experience and they're just price gouging us.
Yeah, all right, well, let's just do the review and forget the pass exists.
Yes, okay, agreed. The pass does not exist.
Right. Although critical reception to previous Ghost Recon games has been somewhat
Bloody online pass! Jesus Christ! Sorry, go on, Hex, go on.
Although critical reception to previous Ghost Recons was divided, this is the 7th game in the series, or 12th if you include expansions, so there's obviously a big fan base for Company D, 1st Battalion, 5th Special Forces Group.
I count 3 riflemen next to that container.
Your ghosts are sent on 12 disjointed missions, chasing Hispanics, then rescuing Africans, then chasing Russians, then rescuing Russians. I'm not actually 100% sure what was going on.
Well, my theory was the main characters were searching the globe for their missing personalities. But look, I mean, they're a confusingly diverse bunch of baddies here, but they are united by the same heinous crime of not being able to speak English.
Es que no apareció, no es un fantasma. Localízalo. Ay, idiota.
Clear.
In one way, these scattered missions aren't bad, because it kind of makes you feel like you're taking part in an overseas adventure holiday.
Well, it is like that, isn't it?
Yeah, and it makes for some interesting and diverse locations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at these. These are exotic places that you'd never normally go to. It's actually so like a holiday that in one mission, you even wander around an airport trying to figure out where the departure gate is. I can't help but feel slightly guilty, though, using my big TV to play a war game that is set in the third world. I mean, like, look at these panicking locals who run away from you.
Yeah, it is a bit disturbing, especially when one accidentally gets in the way.
I know, but I found you can ease your guilt just by buying a whole lot more games so you forget about it.
Well, my biggest issue is that these guys just seem like rubbish special forces at times. I mean, there's one scene at the beginning where they're all looking over an enemy weapon truck and all of a sudden they hear a phone ring, and everybody knows what that means, right? If a mobile phone rings in a situation like that, it's a bomb. But not these guys. They mill about wondering who's left their phone on, and it's only until they see the bomb that they think, oh no, it's a bomb.
And what about when they rescue that hostage without even checking under the hood to make sure they got the right guy?
Classic mistake.
It's incompetence.
It's kind of nitpicky, I know, but Clancy games are meant to be about believability and gritty military action. But if you and I know more about basic military facts than they do, then all that believability just goes out the window.
Yeah, all right, well, should we talk about the gameplay now? Now, if you enjoyed the tactical snooping and hiding in previous Ghost Recon games, well, there's plenty more of that in Future Soldier. And this time it's much less punishing.
Yeah, the cover system is fluid. You can crouch behind barriers fast without fiddling around. You'll also be using your futuristic soldier abilities, such as sending out sensors and drones to detect enemies for you and your squad, and a tactical cloak to help sneak behind enemy lines for satisfying stealth kills.
And I like how the baddies die quickly, like 1 or 2 bullets will usually put them down, which feels nice and crisp, if killing people can be described as crisp.
If you play solo, you can coordinate your 3 AI teammates by lining up some simultaneous 4-way sniping called a sync shot. Pretty satisfying, and the sightlines showing up is a cool feature.
I found those AI teammates pretty cluey, really, and their voice acting is good.
Yeah, they even help you by pointing out where the enemy is hiding.
Coming from that window! From the roof!
Yeah, like they shout out stuff like, he's in the window! The problem is sometimes there's like 50 windows and you don't know which one he's talking about, but it's the thought that counts.
You can play the campaign with up to 4 players in co-op, and it's way more enjoyable that way. Although you do need someone in your party to kind of take charge, don't you? Initially, I felt like we lacked the real decisiveness of real-life soldiers.
They're on the move!
Some parts of the campaign are disproportionately hard, with plenty of instant fails, especially if you're on the team, Bindi. And those patronising tips don't help. Like, if you get run over by a truck, the game tells you, stay clear of vehicles' path to avoid getting hit by them. Yeah, thanks, what a handy hint.
Your package tour of the globe also has a couple of dreary stopovers.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? I mean, why take us somewhere exotic like Nigeria if you're just going to make us trudge through a bunch of boring pipes?
I know, what's the story? Did all the enemies go on strike because of poor conditions in the pipes?
Now, Bindi, how did you find the multiplayer?
Well, extremely hard at first. I mean, I got brutally mown down again and again. It was horrendous, like a Labour Party conference out there.
I found it pretty harrowing too, for two reasons. One, I kept charging in when you're better off being stealthy. And two, I was mostly playing on my own, and Future Soldier is very much a team game. The other thing to remember is you don't have to be a gung-ho killer. With an engineer character, for instance, you can throw out those sensors to highlight where the enemies are, even behind walls.
Oh, I love the wussy engineer because there's no shame if you don't kill anyone. You can just say, no, I was helping out with the intel. I really was.
Yeah, and by using intel gadgets or healing a wounded teammate, you can earn just as much XP as by taking out enemies.
Hold on, I got it. You're all good.
And getting that intel can make or break a match. It's an important role.
Yeah, and there's also they've got an interesting thing called the confidence system. Now, for instance, if you plant explosives on your own, it'll take about 20 seconds. You know, and your dude looks nervously around because he's worried that one of those online jocks with a gamer tag like Ultimate Vengeance XXX is going to pop a cap in his ass any second. But if your teammates cover you nearby, it only takes 10 seconds.
In the cash, cover me.
So the game is actually rewarding you for working together, which is a great feature.
Multiplayer offers 4 pretty conventional modes across 10 different maps. And there's also a wave mode called Guerrilla, and again, teamwork counts here.
Oh, it sure does. I mean, take this goon here with a riot shield. One of you has to distract him while the other creeps around and heroically shoots him in the back.
As for gear, there are near countless weapon combinations to build in the Gunsmith area. You can also use Gunsmith from your phone or web browser with a thing called Ghost Recon Network. This is their version of COD Elite or Halo Waypoint, heaven for stat fiends.
Final thoughts, Hex?
Future Soldier gives you exactly what you expect from a Ghost Recon game, and it's great fun in co-op, although a little bit patchy solo. I thought the production values were just excellent though. Excellent audio, crisp textures, and fine transitions into the action. There is a learning curve though, so you need patience. I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens. Bindi?
Look, this is a game for hardcore shooters. I didn't find it huge fun in solo player, single player, and that is a big chunk of a game. But look, if you happen to have 3 friends who all own a copy of Future Soldier, you'll probably have a good time. But if you're anything like me, and this is what you look like gathered together with all your gaming buddies, you might have to recon for something else. I would have given this 7.5 out of 10, but it's got a shitty online pass, so it gets 6.5.
Good game.
So did you guess the game for this week?
It was the first-person shooter 13 from 2003, based on a Belgian comic book series, the one that wasn't the Smurfs. It made good use of that cel-shaded graphical style.
Well, that's it for tonight's show, Bindi, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you as my co-host once again.
Oh, likewise, Hex. Although next year, do you reckon you could send me to E3? Because I want to experience the intellectual conversations and the atmosphere in the convention centre.
You really want to know what E3 is like?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Because I can actually arrange that.
Oh, great.
Barjo will be back next week to tell us all about it in a jam-packed E3 special.
Oh yeah, I don't want to go to E3 after all. It's going to take me weeks to wash the geek smell off me.
Thanks for tweeting, tweeters, and make sure to check out Spawn Point this weekend, where Goose and I review the magical move game Sorcery.
Well, that's it for this year for me, I suppose. Bindi out.
Hex out.
No, don't.